Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. John Kelly, profiler here, and welcome. I want to welcome back Dustin Rank. You guys definitely loved him last time, and he's back again today by popular demand. He's excellent. He's a master tattoo artist, and he's going to give us some info on what he believes James Chadwell's tattoos have, what kind of meaning they have. That's what we're really interested in, trying to figure out what's at the bottom of this guy. What makes this guy tick is really what we're interested in. I must put out a disclaimer that everybody's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Also, what I want to bring out is my book. So many of you have been interested in it. So many of you have asked about it. It's called Discovering Lazarus. You can buy it where fine books are sold. And it's John Kelly from the beginning to the end, as well as I could do it in a short, to make it a short, interesting read and to condense everything. And it's the good, the bad, and the ugly of John Kelly and recovering from addictive illness and getting to where I am now. And if I could do it, you can do it, okay? Also, there's something else that I want to bring out is that today's actually 37. It's the 37 show we're doing on Libby German and Abby Williams, and it's just unbelievable, you know. Part 37. I mean, it's, we're not going to be around after today. We're going to be gone for a couple of weeks. We're going to be going on vacation. One thing I have to tell you guys is we are victims of your success. You have made us so successful that we cannot keep up with the comments because, as you know, we go over every comment personally. That was my rule. We did that from the very beginning to make sure we wouldn't get any wild and crazy people trying to sneak very negative comments in there. And unfortunately, we can't do it anymore. We will read all your comments, but we cannot answer all your comments. If it's anything extremely important, and especially if you want to tip somebody, send it over to John Kelly Profiler at Gmail. Okay, we'll be more than happy to see it and take care of it from there. But as far as answering all your comments, again, you guys have been so great and made us so successful. We just can't keep up with it. So we're victims of your success and our success. And the only thing I can say is thank you very much. With that all being said, let me introduce master tattoo artist, Dustin Rank. Dustin, welcome. Glad to have you back. We really got a lot out of your last presentation, and we're looking forward to today. I know you were checking into Mr. James Chadwell when we left last time. You were checking out some more things about him. As you look at him, what do you see? What would you like to tell us about him?
You know, the thing that really struck me, you know, if we just kind of set aside, you know, the assault of this kid for a minute, which I mean, obviously is horrible and it explains a lot. But, you know, just if you just look at the guy and just take a snapshot, you know, I see a guy that's really, like, I see a guy that's kind of living a double life. I see a guy that's really in distress about what, I don't know. You know, he's got some interesting things going on, obviously, with his social media, as we talked. And, you know, he's got this thing going with his tattoos. And also, as we talked, you know, like there's so much interesting information about just this one little section. I'm not talking about his torso stuff, which, you know, kind of going back, I straight up believe that's street cred stuff. That's his armor, you know, like that's kind of trying to keep people like, whoa, man, like, you know, like I said, like he thinks he's a badass, obviously, and, you know, that's cool, whatever. But that's what his torso says. But then you get this little tiny snapshot of this stuff on his arm. And man, oh man, like there's just so much discussion around it and so much, and I think some good discussion around it. I mean, there's been some things that I've read that were like, oh wow, yeah, that could be interesting. But it makes me think, like with that image, kind of going back to the clock. Somebody, I think, in the comment section had pointed out, or maybe on his Facebook page had pointed out that last post that he had made about, yeah, I wrecked it all and blah, 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 was on the day that he got caught for abducting that young girl. But, as a guy that's done time like that, and like a lot of people, whether they're heavily tattooed or done time in the joint, they got a relationship with time. They got a relationship with symbolism. It just would blow me away if those two things didn't relate to each other somehow. How, I don't know yet. That's why I'd love to get a peek at what else is going on, not only around it, but he's got a lot of other real estate that we haven't even seen yet, or at least I haven't seen it. So, who knows what else he's got happening there. But if he's got that kind of, if he's relating, on social media about, this crime that he's committed, obviously he didn't come out and say it. He veiled it, are other things that he's got tattooed on him, are those timestamps? Are they time memorials? Are they time markers? Are they like an exit ramp off a road? Are they a map coordinate? Are they a time and place? Is it a date? Like, man, there could be some numbers, there could be all kinds of veiled stuff, or it might just be overt. I mean, you throw a number down, you don't know what the number 22 is. I mean, there's some prison tie-in stuff to that, but I mean, that could have been an exit to a place he dumped the body. I mean, we don't know, but that, I'm just using that as an example of, I got to think he's logging this stuff somehow. And being that he's obviously got a bit of a creative streak, and, he likes to draw. And as we kind of touched on, and I think a commenter did too, about him actually drawing that tattoo, that would make a ton of sense to me. That, I don't think he'd try to sit down necessarily with a tattoo artist and try to explain. Like, that would be kind of a tough thing to try to explain to an artist and keep it veiled at the same time. I think he could have easily drawn it and just said, hey man, I just want to get this inked, like, use your creativity around like the placement and trying to get it, on my body correctly, and kind of fill up the rest of the stuff. But I just want this imagery, which is totally normal. Tattoo artists would grab that and they'd take his sketch or his drawing and they'd, kind of distill it a little bit down to some basic parts so that they could, make a stencil, or they would just simply draw it on there with a pen and a Sharpie, and get everything kind of laid out on his arm the correct way, and obviously where he wanted it. It's also kind of in an interesting place to me, where that is, if that does have some meaning to him, and I think it does. He's got it in a place he can look at it all the time. He's got that, again, back to the stimulation. If that's related to a act, not only does he have that, but he's created it. He's maybe done that act. And then he has the actually getting the tattoo, the stimulation of getting the tattoo. Boy, he's really like tripling down on what that's doing to his mind, what it's doing to his, kind of what's going on internally with him.
Getting off, he's getting high on
man,
it.
If he can,
yeah.
Oh, for sure. And if he can look down there and see that, it would also make a lot of sense. And this is something we hadn't talked about. You see a lot of pictures of his tattoos and stuff. Again, not like his legs or anything, or his other arm, but the only stuff we see of that tattoo is like it's almost like an iris shot of it. You never really see what's around it. You can see it clearly if you look for it, but it's not as like out in the open as like his torso stuff. Again, like we talked about, that that armor, which, you know, may or may have been intentional. I don't know, but gosh, it would sure make a lot of sense. I think that he may not want to telegraph that too much, and that he's kind of keeping that close to the vest, kind of as his own personal little thing.
Literally, and it's interesting how you brought that up right from the beginning, armor, because this guy is a wannabe, acts like a badass, isn't a badass, and doesn't want anybody to try him. So he tries to project and like protect himself with the tats, the armor, right? Rebellious going across his chest. I mean, you nailed that right.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And he's got somebody had reached out to me about his belly tattoo, asked me if it was some type of image. And I don't think it is. It's got to be lettering, just by the way that it's shaped and the way that it kind of fits on across his belly there. I can't read it at all. There's not a good enough picture, but that font is pretty common. It's kind of an older Gothic type of font. But I'd sure be interested to know what that says too,
Something else, I don't know if you know this or not, but and it always blew me away when I interviewed Henry Lee Lucas on death row in Texas, and he had all this art. It was really into art. Only had one eye too, by the way. And then John Wayne Gacy was quite the artist. Okay, I don't know if you know that or not. They were into drawing and painting, yeah. And then more up by you, Keith Hunter Jesperson, serial killing truck driver. Quite the artist. It amazes to me, and that's what I'm getting from you on Chadwell, on how these guys have this artistic nature about them, even though they have consistent fantasies of evil going through their minds.
Yeah. Well, for sure, John. That I think a lot of that outlet, it's so hard for him to contain it, and then you know how powerful symbols are, obviously, psychotherapist and counsel and all that, symbols, they're just, it's a way to keep that stuff internally alive, but it's reinforcing it too, all the way through, like we talked in the last show about, the guys getting, gang tats and stuff. There's a lot of reinforcement that goes on with that, that imagery and those symbols. So, knowing Chadwell, even the little bit that we know about him, you just can't believe that ink don't mean something to him.
And he refers to himself as an outlaw. And it's obvious.
Yeah.
I was reading a little bit on his history from the Daily Mail news site. He likes to pick on women too. I mean, he has it for women, and I see where it's coming from. His brother talked to the Daily Mail, and his brother said that when he turned 13 years old, his mother told him that his father was not his real father, and he doesn't know. I don't think even to this day who his real father is, but at 13. Supposedly hearing from his brother that, that blew his mind and he went crazy. And that's after the mother she had him when she was 15 years old. That's after the mother told him,
oh, wow,
your father that's here with you, is really your stepfather. I mean, he's not your biological father. And that's when the brother says he really went over the edge. And he said he's out to hurt people. He likes to hurt people. And that's why he's, did it. He's done his time. And, a couple of women he's banged around pretty good indeed. And that's what they were all telling him. He's rebellious. Rebelling. And I wonder if that he heard that enough from his family or whatever, he decided to put rebellious right across his chest. And that tattooed
Oh,
on his
oh
chest.
yeah, 100%. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, there it is. There it is. And that's where you mentioned earlier. It's like this guy wants to go back to prison, like this self destructive, fulfilling prophecy. I really don't belong out here with you people. I belong, in prison. I belong in a cage. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm really antisocial. And he even says that. I saw him say that, where, he doesn't like people. I mean,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought I do. Right.
I mean,
So
so
as straightforward as it gets right there, right?
yeah, I mean, that's straight out, right? It's straight up,
Hmm.
So, when, when you see the, I call it the double life, because you see some creativeness, you see a dark side, you see some evil. How do you decipher? How do you decipher? I mean, how did you see that? How did you see that in the tats?
So, when it comes down to, if we're just talking about symbolism and you kind of start digging into people a little bit, and you're kind of getting a feel for, kind of what their jam is all about, and you're looking at their ink, you know, the a lot. I think a lot of that double nature is kind of stuff that I glean. You look at his ink, and it's pretty dark and it's pretty heavy, but then you dovetail that with a lot of stuff that he's got going on, like his social media page and stuff, where he's got like these, kind of like these, like, kind of cool daily affirmation things, like, kind of bumper sticker stuff, and kind of going back to that uh, girl's face on his tattoo. He's got this affirmation thing on his social media page that's a calendar of teardrops, and each one is supposed to represent a characteristic or something, but whether he's like looking at that through the eyes of like an affirmation, or I gotta believe he's drawn to that, as we talked about with the prison system. Like, you don't get like a teardrop tattoo. You like that gets given to you. Like, it's some bad stuff, which is kind of weird, where you see like musicians and stuff running around with that tattoo when they're like, "Whoa, buddy, like that's probably not like super cool, but whatever." That's not, I'm not judging. But when you, in the context of this guy, he's this dude hanging out with his dogs, like looking peaceful, and then he's got like this, that outlaw 313 thing really struck a deal with me too. 313,
About
like
that.
that's a Detroit, yeah, Detroit area code, murder city, murder capital of the United States. 313, I'm an outlaw. But 313 has, it's got some other stuff going on there with it. Let me pull my notes over here. But, it's got if we were going to tie it to, I think this is like a numerology reference, but there's like this angel 313. And I'm going to just read it here because, my steel trap of a mind doesn't really log that stuff like it used to. Angel number 313. This makes 313 the number of optimism, enthusiasm, communication, creativity, and expansion. It goes on a little bit, but man, that like ties right into some of the other stuff that you see him trying to project socially and openly. He may have, like, we talked a little bit via email about kind of like rite and ritual, and he has a little bit of religious symbolism going on, not only in his tattoos but in his social media page. But he might have some kind of like kind of personal Bible code, because you look at Proverbs 313, blessed are those who find freedom, those who gain understanding. That's a bit of a paraphrase, and there's a couple versions of it depending on which Bible you're reading, but man, that ties like right in there to his thing too. So kind of going back to, like, we're just seeing a snapshot. That's why that clock and time numbers like mean so much to me as a tattoo guy. There's got to be more. I mean, if there's not, like, hey man, I'll say I was wrong, but man, I'd be really shocked if there wasn't more stuff going on there. He clearly has like he, as a creative person, he's clearly in touch with, like a two-sided meaning of imagery,
Two
like he
side.
has to.
Yeah.
Uh,
You see,
yeah,
like a
yeah.
doctor.
Which, if he's,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
oh no, yeah, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde for sure. Yeah, and if we were going to talk, touch on Carl Jung. Yeah, the shadow. There's an interesting reference from him that really struck me too, and it made me, because I wrote something down about Chadwell's imagery, uh, about it being, heavy and dark, and if he's, commemorating, assaults or murders or rapes or anything like that. I mean, gosh, that's a lot of weight to carry around with you. Like, did it just get to the point where it's so much for him that, you know, did he snap? Did he like relapse? Like, I don't know, but I could see a guy like that, especially when I look at his, like, just really like outward, like he's kind of grasping for attention and grasping for straws or grasping just for help, and clearly doesn't know how to manage any of that stuff. And that's okay. I mean, that's a lot for any human being to deal with, and especially if you're committing rapes or assaults. I mean, my God, that's pretty rough. But I'm just going to paraphrase it here, but Carl Jung talking about the shadow, if we're ignoring the shadow, it'll become darker, denser, and sooner or later it will surface in some destructive way. And man, that just like, I mean, visually, that strikes me a lot with this dude in a big way. That's, again, is why I'm so curious to see what else he's got going on in the ink department.
Yeah, we definitely want to see that. Something else you focused on too. If you take a look at what you referred to as possibly a map, okay? Because a lot of these, his tats could be a map, because a lot of these guys, record their victims in some way. Okay. I've known killers that have kept ledgers, and with the
Wow.
time, date, and when they did the deal and everything, and they like to go back, they like to refer to it. Um, this would be a first that I've heard of with with tattoos, but anything is possible with these guys, because they they're having this emotional eruption going on, and this is like being taken over, as you mentioned before. You saw the dark side too, like being taken over by the dark side. And it's like then they become blatant about it, and they kind of show it off, or they taunt people like, you see this tattoo, you really don't know what it means, but I know what it means.
Mm-hmm.
I've got something over on you. You know what I mean? It's that kind of,
Yeah.
it's kind of an anti-social game. I truly believe this guy is antisocial. I mean, he's even said he don't like people, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
is, and to do that to a little girl, to choke her out like that. I mean, I can't tell you in the audience how much it means to me to see that little girl saved, because over the years, I have seen so many younger girls and even older girls who weren't saved. And,
Mm.
it's just so refreshing for me to have kind of a happy ending, if you will. I mean, maybe we don't have the killer of Libby and Abby yet, but we have in my opinion, the probable killer of this little girl. He would have killed her if the police had not come back. And I just can't say enough about these cops. I mean, they really,
Oh, for real.
yeah. I mean, they saved that little girl's life. I mean, she was going out of there in pieces or in a bag or a box or something. I mean, there's no question about it. And that's some pretty evil and dark stuff.
Oh, for real, John, for real. Yeah. I mean, those guys acted so fast too. I mean, you could have, waited 15 minutes and that would have been too
That
long.
would have
And
been
man,
too
they got
long.
right to her. And yeah, yeah.
Now, you saw what he was looking at, the ceramic dolls. Those ceramic dolls are called grave watcher dolls. Okay. Now, he was
Hmm.
interested in those. He was looking at those. He was focused on those grave watching dolls, right? Well, why would you want grave watching dolls? The first thing that comes to my mind as a profiler and as a psychotherapist is, where do you have graves that you're worried about, you know, watching? That means
Right.
watching. So, again, grave watching dolls. And if you do have graves, that means you have bodies, right? And this guy, we can't say he's a serial killer at this point, but I can say he is a budding serial killer, because I truly believe he would have killed that girl given the opportunity if those cops didn't come back. And I can also say, as I mentioned last week, you don't start serial killing at 42 years old. You don't start your murderous ways at 42. You start much younger, okay? From like 23 to 35 is like max. 23 to 33 these days is kind of max. So now we got a guy 42. Where has he been? That is the big question. Where has he been? And as you said, what does he have on the other parts of his body that we haven't seen? What does he have on that real estate? Right?
You bet. You bet.
Lisa asked us a question, one of our fans. She said, "Hey, Dustin, could that be the soul leaving the body when you see that vacant kind of vacancy in the eyes of that face that he has drawn on his arm?"
I mean, 100% it could be. Yeah. Again, it's such a common design cue that it's a little tough to say, but it's whatever it means to Chadwell, especially if he created it. He could have easily had that going through his mind when he was putting the pen to the paper on that thing, and having that fantasy about whatever that is. 100% it could be. Yeah. Vacancy, nothing there, nothing home. Could be a reflection too. If he's that vacant or empty inside himself,
Exact. That's a good, excellent,
could easily
excellent
go that
point.
way as well.
Excellent point, because usually these guys, I mean, the guys I've come up close and personal with, I mean, they just seemed soulless. I mean, it's a weird feeling
Yeah.
to be around somebody who has absolutely no conscience whatsoever. I mean, and it's real hard to have a soul if you don't have a conscience, So, I mean, like, I'd rather see you get hit by a car than me drop this hamburger on the ground. Do you know what I mean? That kind of guy, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they don't
Yeah.
care.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I've
Yeah.
talked. I said, well, tell me about remorse. What does remorse mean to you? And they'll look mystified, and they'll look at me, and then they'll think about it for a second, if they should try to bullshit me or not. But then they'll come out and say, John, I can't feel any remorse. I don't feel remorse, and
Wow.
that's the truth. They don't. They absolutely
Mm-hmm.
positively. Some of the people I've interviewed that are, and these are hardcore serial killers, they do not, they do not at all. And then the last question we got, I
Wow.
guess the most asked question from our fans was, and this was from, I hope I'm saying it right, Elastic Heart, the clock. What does the clock mean? What's the meaning of the clock? I mean, everybody wants to know what the meaning of the clock is. And I brought it up to you earlier. I mean, I doing time, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, for
You're
sure.
the master artist, the master tattoo artist. What's your 2 cents?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think what that guy do, like 13 years or something in the joint. Like, I mean, that's real time, That's like probably one of the most common tattoos that guys are either going to get in prison or get when they get out of prison. Certainly it's something you'd find in there, but again, that tattoo, that looks, it doesn't look like prison work to me. I mean, like I said, it could be, but it's definitely, it's got some things going on there that lead me to believe that it isn't like the types of tools that you would use to create it, and if that's the case, like I could see him getting a clock inside, but he could get it outside too. But that's why my curiosity is so piqued about it and why it's tied with that imagery. Like he's obviously, like, he's done time. He's got a clock. He's got a thing for numbers. He's got a thing for symbolism. He draws. You just can't. What it means to him, I'm not 100% sure. Again, there might be some clues around it, but since we can't see that yet. And maybe we will as some time goes by. I don't know how those images are going to manifest. Somebody got pictures of them. I don't know. But it's got to be, makes me curious for sure. But yeah, it's not an uncommon tattoo at all. It's just in the context of what he's got going on. It is interesting.
Very,
And I
very,
think
very.
a commenter even pointed out. Yeah, I could read what time was on the clock. I had a hard time seeing it, but yeah, I mean, if that thing's tied to some sort of memento, I mean, absolutely, it could be a time, it could be a date. The numbers could be a reference, again, like a Bible code to him. It could be, the numbers could mean anything. If it's 7:15 p.m., it might not actually be 7:15 p.m. It might be 715 something. It might be, chapter 7, verse 15. I mean, who knows? I mean, there's a lot of things that could be wrapped up, but it could be backwards for all we know. It could be 517. Right. I mean, you see that all the time in tattoos where things are just so heavily veiled, especially, I think I told you about the guy had the big dude that, had the Red Baron tattoo.
Right.
Man, that guy was cool as hell, man, and you would have never guessed. And like I said, it wasn't until years later that I found out what it meant. But man, that's the kind of dude you would have gone out with a beer with. You would have hung out with him. Like, he was super cool. Like, you'd go ride bikes with him, up on your motorcycles and go jam somewhere. Like, he was a real affable guy, man. Like, and then you find out later, you're like, oh, damn. Yeah, that guy was not messing around whatsoever.
Yeah, that guy's a killer.
Yeah, straight up, yeah.
At this point in time, we're going to have to stop it here. And I just want to thank you so much for all your feedback, for all your professionalism, great professional intuition. And we hope to see you again real soon as this case moves along and as other cases pop up, because there are many tattoos out there these days. Okay.
You bet. Well, thanks again for having me, John. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah, our pleasure. And I want to thank you so much. I want to thank you from our fans. They really enjoy you. They love you. They can't thank you enough. And right now I want to address our fans, and I want to say to you, listen, we will be back probably in about 2 weeks. We have other things we're going to be doing. So we'll be back in about 2 weeks. Most importantly, stay safe out there. Take care of yourself. Make it a great day. And God bless until we meet again. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dustin.